Sunday, June 22, 2025, AGNDD intelliReport topic. United States strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Please pardon any visual and informational inaccuracies in this entirely AI-generated article-based video. Tensions escalate as Iran's nuclear ambitions clash with U.S. and Israeli interests, prompting legislative moves in Congress to limit military actions without explicit authorization. Donald Trump has long opposed Iran acquiring nuclear weapons, citing non-compliance with the NPT. Despite the 2015 JCPOA easing sanctions, Trump's 2018 withdrawal reinstated them, drawing international criticism. By 2025, Iran increased its uranium stockpile, nearing weapons-grade levels, raising global concerns. Israel, not an NPT signatory but believed to have nuclear arms, sees Iran's potential nuclear capability as a threat, taking covert actions against it. Tensions have risen post-Hamas attacks, with U.S. support for Israel's military. Trump's advisors, including Tulsi Gabbard, initially warned against war, but later shifted to assert Iran's nuclear threat, aligning with Trump's stance. Senator Tim Kaine introduced a Senate resolution requiring explicit congressional authorization for military action against Iran, either through a war declaration or military force authorization. In the House, Representatives Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna introduced a similar resolution, supported by several dozen Democratic co-sponsors. Many right-wing figures in the U.S., like Rand Paul and Tucker Carlson, have criticized Trump's backing of Israeli strikes on Iran and potential U.S. involvement. A June 2025 poll showed 53% of Trump voters opposed U.S. involvement in the Iran-Israel conflict. Another poll by The Washington Post found 45% of respondents opposed U.S. military airstrikes on Iran, 30% were unsure, and 25% supported military action. In June 2023, tensions escalated between the U.S. and Iran, with the U.S. evacuating citizens and moving military forces to Europe. Iran disrupted shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, and President Trump demanded Iran's unconditional surrender. Despite diplomatic efforts, U.S. military readiness increased, deploying B-2 bombers and putting bases on high alert. Iran boosted oil exports, fearing U.S. attacks. Israeli officials pressured the U.S. for action while U.S. officials debated involvement. The situation was tense, with potential for conflict, as both nations prepared for possible military engagement. Reports indicated prior U.S.-Israeli military exercises and political divisions in the U.S. Congress. Iran's state media reported no radioactive material was present at the Fordo nuclear facility sites targeted by U.S. strikes. Officials assured there was no danger to nearby residents, as nuclear material had been evacuated beforehand. In retaliation, Iranian missiles wounded at least 16 people in Israel. Following airstrikes, the Metropolitan Police in D.C. and NYPD heightened security at religious sites. Israel shut its airspace. On June 22, the U.S. State Department ordered non-essential personnel and families to leave Lebanon. The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting on the airstrikes, prompted by Iran. The text discusses reactions to U.S. military strikes on Iran, with varying opinions from American politicians. Republican leaders, including Senators Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and Mitch McConnell, praised the strikes as necessary and justified, emphasizing the threat posed by Iran's nuclear ambitions. Some Democrats, like Senator John Fetterman and Representatives Tom Suozzi and Richie Torres, also supported the action, citing Iran's role in sponsoring terrorism. However, others, like Democratic Representative Jim Himes and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, criticized President Trump for bypassing Congress, calling it unconstitutional and potentially leading to further conflict. Republican Thomas Massie also condemned the strikes as unconstitutional. As of June 21, 2025, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei had not responded to strikes due to being incommunicado in a bunker. Iranian officials condemned the strikes as violations of international law and vowed to defend their sovereignty. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization labeled the attacks as barbaric and planned legal action while continuing their nuclear program. No contamination was reported near key sites. Iran's armed forces tracked the attackers' flight paths and vowed continued retaliation against Israel. On June 22, Iran's parliament voted to close the Strait of Hormuz, pending further approval, affecting global oil and gas traffic. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders praised former President Trump for targeting Iran's nuclear facilities, calling it a historic and bold decision. Netanyahu highlighted the action as a significant turning point that prevented Iran from acquiring dangerous weapons. Former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and President Isaac Herzog also commended Trump's decision, emphasizing its importance for global security and liberty. Herzog expressed gratitude towards the United States, marking the event as a triumph in human history. Various countries expressed their reactions to U.S. military action against Iran's nuclear facilities. Albania and Argentina supported the actions, emphasizing the threat posed by Iran's nuclear ambitions. Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, and Denmark acknowledged the threat, but urged a return to diplomatic negotiations. Bolivia, Chile, China, and Cuba condemned the strikes, citing violations of international law and the potential for increased conflict. Cyprus and Egypt called for restraint and diplomatic solutions. Estonia and Finland supported preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons, but emphasized the importance of diplomacy and avoiding escalation. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres labeled recent strikes as a dangerous escalation and urged for diplomatic efforts to address the situation. Iranian affiliates, including Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, condemned recent strikes as acts of aggression. Hamas labeled them as blatant aggression, while Hezbollah described them as barbaric and treacherous against peaceful nuclear facilities, expressing solidarity with Iran but refraining from retaliation due to Iran's strength. The Houthis viewed the strikes as a dangerous escalation threatening regional and international security, warning that Trump must bear the consequences. Despite the condemnation, Hezbollah emphasized its commitment to its ceasefire agreement with Israel. As global tensions escalate, the world watches closely, hoping for diplomatic solutions to prevent further conflict and ensure regional stability.
Thank you for watching this AGNDD intelliReport, dear viewers. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell button to get notified during new uploads. And make sure to tune in next time. Stay safe and healthy. Cheers.